have an audio team. So let's see here. So this is the audio feed, right? So it's connected. Excuse me, it's connected already. But oh yeah, you can see there.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Getting. Oh.
Maybe I'm getting audio from the cam.
I think that's exactly it, yeah.
Okay, so I'm muting cam link on cam feed, and then that's muted as well. So now it should just be.
Yep. Yeah, that should just be our live. So that's live 6, which take it to Unity, and okay, we're good on that front. Check 1 2, check 1 2. We're not peaking. Okay, cool. Next up is live 5. Check. Live 5, check. Up to Unity. No peaking. Okay, we're good on that one. Wonderful. You're good. Okay, yeah, no, we're receiving. And we're not peaking. No, we're kissing the red, but kiss in the red. Okay, yeah, no, we're good. Okay, perfect.
Rajat actually reports up into Denise. And again, I mentioned this before, but our relationship with Google is super important to us, and we appreciate you coming out from the New York office as well. Although you're California.
Yes,
California.
I'm from California.
There you go. So she's spanning the coast to coast.
Yep.
But today, we're excited for her to share some thoughts. After Shanice, we have a couple of our own team members who are going to spend some time. So Jeff Pearson, I think he's after, is that right? So Jeff is our SVP of retail and healthcare, right? So we're super excited to have Jeff speak. And then finally Landon, who's one of our digital team leads. And if you've had the opportunity to speak to Landon in the past, you recognize he's a smart cookie. So he's one of our leaders on the digital team. These are the guys who are analyzing campaigns and making adjustments to make sure that we're performing digitally consistently for all of you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Shanice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. So, as Greg mentioned, I'm Shanice Wigfall. I'm a head of agency at Google, and so under my remit is about 40 to 50 agencies spanning the Midwest and the East Coast, and under that, about $2 billion in revenue. So I work with their advertisers as the agencies are trying to figure out how to keep their advertisers growing, keep their advertisers very happy. I'm the one working with them and working with Farjad to make sure that you guys have everything that you need from a Google standpoint. So today we're going to talk about e-commerce and retail brand strategies. And so a little bit of background for me. I've been at Google 3 years. However, I've been in the space for about 12 years or so. Before that, I had another life of a publicist, an entertainment publicist. But then I came over actually through political ads. And I used to do paid search for politicians in Washington, D.C. Really loved paid search and loved the digital space. And so I wanted to make that my day-to-day job. And so in that, I had the pleasure of working with a lot of different brands in a lot of different verticals, Adidas, PlayStation, Sony Electronics, as well as a number of small to medium businesses. So my knowledge spans from really understanding what small businesses look like and how they grow, and then what bigger businesses need to continue to sustain that growth. So Google has a lot of events, but one of our premier events is called Think Retail. And so I'm going to give you guys a little sneak peek to what is going to come in a couple of weeks. Our Think Retail event is going to be simulcast on August 29th, and then it's also going to be in person. So if any of you are in New York, please feel free to come in person, but you will also be able to watch it online. So you guys are actually getting the content before anyone else. So as we know, times are changing in terms of retail and what we're seeing in the lift. We saw about 3 to 5% increase in 2020. That's due to the pandemic. People are inside. They were just spending. In terms of 2021, retail sales spiked up even more because at that point, people were excited to be out. They wanted to buy the thing that they weren't able to buy in 2020 while they were in the pandemic. They didn't know if they should be buying evening gowns, or they didn't know if they should be buying frivolous things because we just didn't know what was going on. And so we saw a huge spike in terms of sales in 2021. But also we saw that as people were still spending, they were saving. So they were hoarding their money like crazy. And so from there, now we see we've entered into this state of inflation. We have credit card debt, and savings is going down. People are depleting their savings. And so there's a number of reasons why we're seeing savings going down. Some, to Phil's point earlier, are deciding, you know what, I'm not going to be able to hold on to this money for the rest of my life. Let me go spend it. And then there are some people who are needing to use it for other things, like their credit card debt that's going up, everything that they've been racking up. And so in terms of the shopping landscape, what we're starting to see is that it's really a time for you to pivot. Consumers are pivoting, and the retailers need to pivot as well. And so what we're seeing is spontaneous purchases are up about spontaneous purchases are a bit down because they're doing more intentional shopping. So they're looking at, what do I really need to spend my money on? And so that could be something that is, to some people, a little bit more frivolous, but they're giving a lot of thought into what they're going to spend their money on now that inflation has jeopardized that. And then we're also looking at what channel are they looking at. So as we know, the consumer journey is not linear. Right now, when you guys search, and we're going to be a little bit interactive here, when you search, do you immediately buy? No, right? You might, in terms of your decision tree to search, you might see something online, you might see a YouTuber, influencer, you might see something on TV, and then you might get served an ad that you didn't type in, you just were served in, and you're like, how did I see that? And after a while of seeing so many of those touch points, you're like, you know what, I remember this brand, I'm going to search it. So that consumer journey and that path is no longer linear, and so we need to be in more than one place. So if you are only running on paid search, if you are only running, hey, we're only gonna do TV, or we're only gonna do search and TV, you're probably going to miss a huge part of your consumer base. And so what we see is that consumers are shopping 2+ channels, and that's up 85%. So in that, they are looking at TikTok commerce, they are looking at Google Shopping, they are looking at any of the Meta products in terms of commerce, and they are going back and forth between them. And so they are not loyal to any particular channel. And also, they're not loyal to brands at the moment. They're looking at value. They're looking at who can give me the best deal right now, who resonates mostly with my lifestyle in this moment, who had the funniest ad that I really thought was cool, and so I'm gonna engage with them. There's a whole bunch of different ways. So no longer are we seeing, hey, I only buy Fords. Hey, I only buy UGG boots. I'll get a different brand. I'll get their competitor. And so what we're finding with advertisers is that it's creating a period of pressure for you all. And with that, you're looking at, hey, we need to make sure that we are focused on performance with fewer resources. Some people have had to lay off their team members. Some people have had to really tighten and really figure out where are the resources going to make sure that their bottom line stays intact. They're also feeling the pressure from their competitors. So many times I hear advertisers saying, I have no idea how my competitors are spending all this money. I don't have that money to spend. I need to be as efficient as possible. You're telling me you want me all of the places, but I have to be efficient. I have to look at performance. And then we are looking at the shoppers, the pressure on their wallets that every dollar has to be for something. And so when we look at the retail space, there's so many parts of it, right? We have the customer experience and the loyalty programs. We need to look at logistics. We have strategy and planning of not only just your marketing and your media, but you have to look at strategy and planning overall. And then you also have to look at, what does my merchandising look like? Am I buying the right products? Do we have enough in stock? In 2021, we were having huge supply chain issues. So that was a huge issue. And then on top of that, you have if you are a brick and mortar, your store operations and any marketing that you needed to do after that. And so from there, you see that there's so much that Google can help you with overall. So I'm not gonna read all of those, but this is just a good idea of where you can lean in from an automation or the new term AI perspective in terms of retail to just make it easier on yourselves, but also make it easier for your customers to access you. So if anyone wants to talk to me after this about a little bit more about this and delving in deeper, we're the Google Ads team, but we can talk to you about any of the cloud resources as well. And so AI is really going to drive and be the tool for how you're able to meet that complexity and meet all of the needs of the consumer journey now being a huge web that that's unpredictable. Also, your business being a huge web of unpredictability. And so really trying to figure out what are, to Greg's point earlier, what is your priority? And how do we use AI to make sure that we're optimizing toward that priority, right? So when we look at AI-powered profit engines, when you invest in your marketing and your sales, you see an increase in your revenue overall. And you should be able to see a reducing your cost by using particular AI solutions. So from a paid search perspective or from a marketing perspective, are you using Performance Max? Are you figuring out your bidding strategy? Are you still using manual levers? Are you in the accounts day in and day out? Or are you looking at more strategy? We were talking earlier about instead of bidding to a ROAS target, skip to straight bidding to profit because that's what's important for your business. So those type of things of really thinking about, do we need to do all of the steps or can we have AI in the machine learning and the Google signals that we know Google already has, do a little of that heavy lifting and help us learn a little bit more about our business. So as much as you guys are giving us information and telling us, hey, this is the return that I need, we can also give you a lot of information on your business, where your consumers are, where even if you're like, hey, this is my target audience, we can tell you who is adjacent to that and what the path that it looks like to them finding you. And so what we see is when businesses invest in more AI-powered solutions, they see about a 2.5 times increase in their business. And so if you look, I'm dating myself. I was selling paid search ads in 2013, but in 10 years' time, it just looks completely different. I think someone asked me earlier, what's changed in Google Ads? A lot has changed in Google Ads. And so, the shopper experience is more native, it's more personal, it's more visual. Now, I don't know if you've seen the Google commercial now where if you take a picture of something, you can do the reverse image search. So if you want to take a picture of my jumpsuit, I got this jumpsuit from Love Bonita. It's a small business. And I saw a girl in Soho. I loved it. I took a picture of her. She said I could. And then I reverse Google searched it and was able to find it. And so I bought it from Love Bonita. And so that is just one part of the shopper experience. If you think about it, your consumer is not, or your customer is not always going to find you right on your website. So what does that experience look like outside of just your website? And so now what we see is we are able to make it experience-oriented, and we're able to make it predictive. If you just hurt your back and you're starting to look at painkillers and you're trying to figure out different remedies to help your back, probably you're going to stumble upon maybe you need to change your mattress. And so maybe we can let you know that that's a way that you can alleviate that back pain. And so this is a way where we're looking at, hey, can we get to the consumer before they even know that it's time to buy a mattress? And now we've gotten them loyal to our brand because we were telling them the story and educating them on what they needed before they even knew that they needed it. And so those are the things you want to start thinking of, and this is what AI can help you with in terms of the machine learning and the Google signals that you guys have at your disposal. And some really cool things that I personally love is that now with these AI-powered solutions, we're seeing really visually rich shopper experiences. A couple of years ago, I was doing a lot of talks about YouTube shopper playbooks, we've taken a lot of what was just only on the YouTube platform and brought it over into Google Ads. And so now you're able to, similar to what I just said, Google Lens, take a picture of something, really be able to find it. Right now I'm moving out and I don't know where I'm selling my dining room table, but I can't remember where I got it from or what the brand is because it was from an estate sale. I use Google Lens to try to figure out, okay, how much can I sell this for? I think I can still sell it for a good amount. What is the going rate for tables like this? And I was able to find that. You're also able to look at how do you try on shoes online? Can I figure out if a couch can fit in my living room through AR? Can I do a personalized search page? So I only want to look at brown handbags. That's all I want to see. Show me all the brown handbags. And so you're able to customize that experience. And so as I mentioned, shopping on YouTube, 3 years ago it was pretty impressive, but it's become even more seamless. And what we're really trying to do is make sure that YouTube does not feel separate from the rest of the Google experience. And you're able to get the data of the people watching and interacting with your brand, or even interacting with your competitor's brand. If you want to build an audience of your competitor, you absolutely can, and you can target them. Now, that means that someone can build that audience about you too, and they can target. But that's where you're able to start learning more. What are the behaviors of the people who are not choosing your brand? What are their behaviors, and how can you get to them a little sooner before your competitor? Okay. So in terms of AI, when we think of it as a multiplier, we're looking at results, so you're able to drive really strong ROIs and unlock that growth. And that's in terms of looking at, am I diversifying? Yes, I want to look at the bottom of the funnel, but as I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel, I need to bring people in. So am I investing in the mid-funnel? Am I investing in that upper funnel to tell my story, to get people to want to convert at the end? Looking at the customer connections, do I really understand my customer and how I'm resonating with them? Can I get to market faster? Get to market faster and in front of them a little bit quicker? What are those ways? And so there's a lot of predictability models that we can use right in Google Ads in that Insights page that you can use. And then you want to look at expertise in terms of driving a greater impact and driving more value. And this is going to be through your creative. Google's doing a lot of new things in terms of AI on creative. So now if you have an old creative and you're like, hey, it needs to be updated a bit, you can go right into Google Ads, into Creative Studio, and say, hey, I want new text overlay. I want a voice to text. I got some assets that are still assets, but we need to make it a video. Let's upload those and let's see how this AI-powered tool can create these videos. And a lot of times, some of the ads that are currently in the market, currently on like YouTube TV, were created in Creative Studio and people don't even know it. So in terms of like transforming your retail business, AI learns from you. So the information you all give is extremely valuable. Don't just give us, hey, we need to hit this CPC or we need to hit this ROAS. If you're like, hey, we need to make X amount of money this year and Google is a part of 20% of it, so here's your goal, give it to us. And it will be able to model out exactly what it takes to get there. Help us understand what your source of truth is in terms of measurement and in terms of measurement and reporting. If your source of truth, hopefully it's GA4, but if it's not, that's okay. And give us that, connected to it, so that we have all of the tools that we need to make the best decisions for you and to learn from your AI. So this is a little bit more in terms of how that goes about it. We combine your data and your assets with ours, and we're able to really understand the business, how your creatives are currently resonating, how your messaging is currently resonating, what your user experience is when people come to your website. I know you guys have heard of maybe quality score, landing page tests. We're able to understand a little bit more of, hey, we notice when we drive this particular audience to this website, they drop off in a few seconds. They might not be the audience that we need to keep driving to. Or, hey, even though they're interacting really, really well with the website, they don't fit the typical audience mold, so the client is not, or the advertiser is not investing more in them. So should we not? So if you're starting to, I don't want to say be resistant, but if you're really stuck on, hey, we only have this particular audience, you might be missing a key audience that could really help fuel your growth. Because audiences get some fatigue sometimes, so it's good to test those. And so to power business imperatives, one, I mentioned it in terms of bidding to profit. Maximize profitable sales. Is your $2 ROAS or your $6 ROAS actually profitable? Let us know that, and let's do the work. We can do unit economic calculators for you. We can really figure out and go pretty deep in determining, is your media working for you? How do we win the omni shopper? So as we mentioned, not everyone is just online. They're searching all different types of places. So how do we win them? How do we find them where they are at currently? And then how do we engage high value customers? So it would really, really suck, for lack of a better word, if you're doing all of this, you're pouring your dollars in and you're finding out the average order value is $20, or these people only want to shop our sale page. These are not the people that we want to target. So how do we target and engage those high value customers and build strategies towards them? So we have a smart scale, and these are things where we've built systems of where people don't typically look. When we think of search on its own, we think of push marketing. When someone searches the keyword that we thought of, we've spent a long time building a lot of these keyword lists, and we're like, hey, these are the keywords that people are looking at. And we're thrown for a loop when someone finds us and it wasn't on that keyword list. Well, now we're looking at, okay, what are some other ways that people are finding people outside of, those regular keyword lists, those audiences that we typically know align. And this is where PMAX comes into play. And so PMAX is meant to be incremental to what you are doing. I know that sometimes that is not very clear, but it is meant to be incremental. So you should have a very strong search foundation. You should be investing in discovery as well as some video, and then PMAX is able to utilize the audiences that you didn't think of and find your customers there. Also, in terms of casting a wider net, when you think of search and keywords, broad match and powering it with AI is going to really be something that you'll see will expand your reach. And this is something you can do before maybe you even do PMAX. You can do broad match to really see, okay, maybe I don't have the appropriate spellings, or maybe people are starting to think of one keyword, think of our brand with another brand, but Google's able to understand actually their intent, and so they're able to target them for us rather than what our name matches with. And then you're also able to get a clearer picture, and so I really want to take some time to talk about enhanced conversions. We have two products in the space that I think are somewhat confusing to people: enhanced conversions for web and enhanced conversions for lead. Enhanced conversion for web, everyone needs to do it because it's the web signal. with cookieless tracking going away, you are going to see that your conversions will begin to decline. You probably have already seen it. You're like, hey, for some reason, when we look year over year, we've been spending more and getting less. Why is that? Our conversion rate seems to be somewhat the same or a little, or not as good. Why is that? It's probably because we're starting to not be able to track as many conversions as possible. And so enhanced conversions is going to be something that you want to look into, that you can model out and be able to figure out those digital signals. Your YouTube and your display campaigns aren't really going to make too much sense if you're not able to track those people and track those view-through conversions. So I don't want to sit here and tell you to diversify if you don't have your measurement in place. So this is just a quick snapshot, and I know I have to wrap up, a quick snapshot of how you align your business, how you then leverage to get more performance, and then how you go in deeper in terms of insights. And Max Connect has done a really good job at really understanding our platform and being able to help guide you all through this. And so then with Omni Shoppers, the channel-less experience, I think a lot of you have interacted with this, but looking at your asset coverage, looking at do you have a local strategy in your campaigns? What does that look like? Are the goals different for online versus your physical storefront? And here's all of the solutions there at your disposal as well. And we'll be able to share these slides as well. And then from a high value customer, this is us delving a little bit more into video and figuring out how we create somewhat of an always-on solution or foundation so that we're constantly bringing people into the fold and moving them down the funnel. So net, getting the most out of your AI, you're going to make sure that you're combining that data, fine-tune it with your business targets, really cast a wide net as far as you can, and begin to fuel the engine by being as agile as you can, testing your budgets, having test budgets if you can, so that you can get some more learnings and apply them. All right, thank you so much.
Good, some familiar faces out there. Thanks for making time out of your busy schedules to be with us today. My name is Landon Howard. I am one of our digital directors. I manage half of our digital team upstairs. I've been with Max Connect for 5.5 years now. And yeah, like I said, I manage half the team where we push all the buttons behind the scene. We deploy all these types of campaigns that Google has talked about today. And so we'll just dive a little bit deeper into some of the trends that we've been seeing on our end, and then a couple key strategies that you should be doing on your end from an e-commerce standpoint and a retail standpoint. Got to wait for Jeff real quick. Perfect.
I'm ready.
Yep. We
All right.
sounding okay back there? Probably.
Everybody here is fine? Okay. All right. Well, good afternoon. I know it's been said a few times, but we appreciate you making the time to be here. We think, a lot of what Shanice, you just shared, and a lot of what was shared earlier is, we think, super important, super valuable. A couple things that we're going to spend some time on, a little bit of recap of some of Shanice's information, but we want to leave some time at the end to really have some Q&A. So we'll have Shanice come back up, and we really want you as our partners to be able to ask some questions, and let's talk a little bit further about some of the things that have been shared. So if you can click to the next slide. One of the things I did want to do is just a brief introduction to myself. So most of my career, I was you. I was the client. And so I ran marketing and e-commerce for a big retail company out of the Midwest by the name of H.H. Gregg for about a decade. And we did up to about $2.5 billion in retail sales. So very similar out here to an R.C. Willey. And then from 2016 to 2019, I ran marketing and e-commerce for Lid Sports Group. So many of you are familiar with the hat store. We did a lot of sales both online and at retail. And so a lot of the things that I've learned, I've tried to bring here to Max Connect as we built out our retail, e-commerce, and healthcare verticals. As a bit of a recap here, just a couple of things that we really want you to take advantage of, and the slide's not showing exactly perfect, but under the session takeaways, similar to what Shanice said, is we really want you to be thinking about right now as you come into the holiday season, you really should be planning for the holiday season right now, is that you need to be thinking about truly investing in top of funnel activities. And then the other thing we want you to make sure that you're thinking, a couple other points here on the slides, is that you need to be thinking about what middle of funnel is doing for you, both from an awareness standpoint, but it also is leading into conversion. And by doing top of funnel and middle of funnel activities very well, that's definitely going to lead to your bottom of funnel being, converting to a much greater extent. Now, those are, I think, are obvious points, right? Like, okay, Jeff, we get it. But I think what happens is oftentimes in the day-to-day we're super busy and we forget about that you really need to be balanced in the top, mid, and bottom of funnel. And then a couple other things just to be thinking about is, you know this as shoppers, but it is Black November. It's not Black Friday anymore. And Black November, quite frankly, it begins November 1st. But truly, if you flip to the next slide, it truly begins with Veterans Day. So I really want you to be thinking about, here is being a retailer or anything you're doing from an e-commerce perspective, is you've really got to be driving results by Veterans Day. And then we mentioned on the previous slide, you need to really be thinking about all the way through Black Friday, and then Cyber Monday is no longer Cyber Monday, it's Cyber Week. And a lot of times that Cyber Week ends up being almost 10 days or even longer. And then it comes into what, just by show of hands, is anybody familiar with Green Monday? So if you're not familiar with Green Monday, it is an e-commerce holiday online. And it's basically the last time that e-commerce retailers put on a big sale in order to get free shipping by the cutoff date. Green Monday is a thing. So just be thinking about that.
It's going to be Green Month in a few years,
yeah.
And so get ready for it.
So once again, Black November into Cyber Week or Cyber 10 days, and then right into Green Monday is what we want you to be thinking about. And then just a couple other holiday predictions. And what's great about this is that Shanice, we didn't spend time coordinating our presentations exactly right, but exactly what she said is that the growth, we're expecting a growth this year of kind of 4 to 6% over 2022. A couple other key things, buy now, pay later is going to be about 9% of sales this year. Not huge, but think about 10%. People are trying to figure out what are alternate payment methods. So just be thinking about that, especially if you're a big ticket item. And then discounting does drive sales, and this year even more than ever, consumers are waiting for those discounts in order to pull the purchase trigger, so to speak.
And if I can add one thing into there, just looking back at May and Memorial Day sales and things like that, we did a year-over-year analysis of cost per clicks and CPMs across the board, and mainly in Facebook, across Facebook and Instagram on all of our clients. And we saw that the cost per clicks across our agency were up 76% year over year. It's getting more expensive, okay? So we need to be a little bit more strategic on when we do those sales. Do we need to move it up a couple days? Do we need to do a different sale, in the middle of the year that might be more beneficial because, shoppers are waiting for those discounts? And then how can we align those budgets to align well with, the top of funnel strategies leading up to it to then have strong budgets during those sales periods?
Perfect. And then final bullet point, and Shanice touched on a lot of this. So as we continue to work with you out over the coming months as your partners, how do we make sure that AI really works hand in hand with everything we're doing to improve product discovery and ultimately, obviously, improve overall sales results? So we talked about it already, kind of top, mid, low, or you want to think about a full funnel approach. These are the things that we really think about. And so on that funnel in front of you, the way to be thinking about it, obviously, is awareness and interest are really more of that top of funnel. Mid-funnel is truly consideration and intent, and obviously bottom of funnel is purchase. And so obviously many of you here and that are online are familiar with these products, but each of these products play a particular role. And as we work with you and as your partners, we'll continue to, to adapt the right strategies to utilize these different tools the best way as possible. What we want to do now is Landon's going to take you through just a couple of client examples. And we know that this is a little bit hard to maybe consume exactly on these slides. We will send you these slides. But I think as Landon takes you through these couple of examples, just want you to be thinking about, for additional questions, how we can kind of bring these to life as we have conversation afterwards.
Yeah, and we'll share all this with you guys afterwards. But we just wanted to put this together. This was put together by a couple team members here at Max Connect for a client called South Moon Under. And we just wanted to showcase really how extensive the funnel can be, right? So you can see this top of funnel and how large that area is, and all of the different strategies that can be, implemented in the top of funnel. You serve someone an initial video and they watch maybe a little bit of it. Well, let's get a different video back in front of them. Let's get their attention from there. Or they view the whole, 100% of the video. Okay, well, let's move them down the funnel. Let's get them into these other channels and other strategies. So as you can see, the top of funnel, how that feeds into the middle funnel, all the way down to the bottom of the funnel. We never want to lead with just those bottom funnel strategies, because by the time they're there, we're scraping at the edges of the funnel, trying to get as many customers as we can if we're not, filling it strategically like this showcases. And I want to talk about a strategy that goes really well with this. It does sit top of funnel, but it does bleed into some of those middle of funnel and bottom of funnel strategies. And the example here we're using is McGee & Co. Shout out to Denise here. But anyways, I'm going to take you through how this strategy works, and we're going to go through the whole dynamic product retargeting product and strategy that we run. So as you can see here, someone lands on McGeeandCo.com, then they go and look at a couple different products. They look at a towel, they look at a couch, they look at a desk or whatever it may be. They have a couple options from there. They can either leave, they looked at the product, they didn't add to cart, they just left. Or they can add it to cart, and from there they have the two options, whether they're going to purchase or they're going to leave that cart, right? So those three colors right there represent three different buckets of first-party data, of remarketing lists, that if you're not doing this strategy, you're missing out on those customers and being able to get really hyper-targeted ads right back in front of them. So as you can see, someone leaves the website, they only viewed a product. Well, as they're scrolling through Facebook and Instagram to see how their friends are doing later that day, boom, that same product, that same, throw a blanket that they were looking at pops up in their feed. It's one of the most relevant ads that they can be served. It's the exact t-shirt someone's looking at, the exact pair of shoes on Nike.com you were looking at. It's, whatever it may be, it's getting that exact same product in front of them. And we can also do this across the display network as well. So that's sitting a little bit more top of funnel, but it's still building that awareness. So as Shanice mentioned, when they're coming back and they're ready to search and make the purchase, your paid search ad pops up and they recognize your brand. They remember that they were looking at you earlier that day. And we're always, feeding that funnel with the top of mind awareness, that brand building, and those very relevant ads. I bet most of your competitors are doing this as well. And you guys can put me to the test on that, not right now, but maybe after, just in case I'm wrong. But go to their website, go to your competitor websites, go and browse a couple products, go add to cart, and then just leave your cart. And then as you're scrolling through, Instagram later that day, or you're on ESPN, or you're on Fox News, whatever it is, just be conscious of some of those ads that are serving, and you'll probably see some of your competitor ads out there. So that's kind of the main reasons to be doing this. One, this is a great cost-effective way to stay top of mind and build that awareness and stay relevant. Two, your competitors are doing it, you should be as well. Let's make sure we're there so that another competitor isn't showing that the throw blanket that they saw on their website to that customer. And three, this is first-party data is gold. You hear all the things with cookies and third-party data and how all that's changing. Well, this is the data that you guys have and only you guys have. So let's make sure we utilize it in a strategic way. And then one other campaign, I'll quickly go through this so we have a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. But Google local campaigns. How many of you have retail locations? Okay, cool. A couple of you. So the first one was more of that, e-commerce. If you have a product, we can do that dynamic product retargeting. This one right here, the Google local campaign specifically, is more for those brick and mortar locations. And this is actually implemented through some of those Performance Max campaigns that Shanice had mentioned. And how it works is using Crew Car Wash as an example here, is we leverage their Google business profiles for all their locations. Whether you have one location or 1,000 locations, it doesn't matter, because we can do this. So we use those get Google business profiles to be able to get those ads in front of consumers wherever they may be. Whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Gmail, whether it's on Google Search or on Google Maps. the customer journey isn't linear. You know, Shanice mentioned that multiple times. It's not. Consumers are all over the place in how they research and where they're looking for things. So this is a great way to be in front of those customers wherever they may be. And what happens is as they're searching for, car wash near me, or as they're, doing different research on best products to wash their car, or however it is, we can serve different types of ads wherever they may be throughout that local funnel and be able to drive interactions with your brick and mortar stores. This is broken out by the top 10 locations for Crew Car Wash based on impressions, and you can see how many times each one of their Google business profiles were served across maps, across search, across YouTube, display, Gmail, wherever it may be. And you can also see the ultimate goal is to get store visits, right? And so we can actually attribute from those ads back to those store visits. This obviously comes with enough, spend in there and data collected by Google to be able to get to this point, but it's something that's very powerful to say, hey, we are able to serve, let's say X amount this month, and you were able to bring in 1,000 customers to this specific store. So as we optimize on our end, and as we're building out those campaigns, we're focused on getting phone calls, getting driving directions clicks, and getting people to come to your storefront.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so just the 3 key takeaways we talked about already is that, prepare now for Q4, Black November, et cetera. And so, as your partners, will be doing that with you. Landon already mentioned, but utilize your first-party data as best as possible. And then finally, just to recap it again, bring it all back to what Shanice started talking about, is that just make sure you're deploying a full funnel approach. That may vary a little bit from time to time with seasonality, but you really need to be thinking about that full funnel approach to what you're doing with all of your advertising dollars. So with that, I know we left a little bit of time. We definitely want to have just some interactive Q&A. Shanice, there'll probably be some questions for you as well, and we can bounce back into slides as needed, but definitely like to open up to questions. Anything that you guys would like to talk about?
Yeah, question right here.
So is the primary way that you're seeing brands capture first-party data by just capturing email lists and pop-ups? I mean, is that the primary way, because that's not always easy to do for certain businesses. What are other methods that you can use to capture first-party data?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. First-party data can mean so many different things. So yeah, emails in customer lists, yes, that's great. How we tag the website to do, for example, this dynamic product retargeting, we can bucket all these based on what they're doing on the website. You don't necessarily have to have had their email, from this strategy, and we can, based on our tagging and implementing our pixel on the site, be able to bucket and utilize that first-party data. First-party data could even mean, YouTube visitor or YouTube subscribers and people watching, your YouTube videos. There's just so many different ways to do it. Collecting as many emails as possible is always a great strategy, but with our team as well, we'll implement different strategies with pixel tracking and things like that. So
we've also had some good success just running different contests, obviously with the products that you have to offer as as an e-com retailer or a retailer, by building basically anything from an organic social. So obviously Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and being able to use that information as well. And then also running contests to capture more email addresses than just a pop-up on the website has definitely been pretty valuable. John, you had a question?
Yeah, when you think about the full funnel, take a general rule, people before when it's the investment, how much you want to see the top of the funnel, how much the funnel, how much bottom of the funnel. I know it probably depends on.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
So I think the way that we've typically thought about it here at Max Connect is that if you think bottom of funnel and then build it up, is we've typically said about 30 to 35% should be in bottom of funnel, and typically that's kind of your paid search and shopping. And then depending upon what type of, let's say retail, brick and mortar retailer, e-com, just say retailer in general, is that you take that next 65%, and depending upon let's say the path to purchase or how long that path to purchase is going to be, then that breaks down a little bit differently. So for you, like from a mattress standpoint, your top of funnel would probably be a little longer there because you're trying to get more awareness of why they should select you for a mattress versus if they're buying sheets or towels. So does that make sense? Kind of how that splits out. And there is some seasonality to it as well, because as we talk about November and December, I would say that top of funnel in November and December would shrink,
Yes.
and middle of funnel would be bigger. and then bottom of funnel would be larger. So like if you think about November, December, you probably end up going 45% bottom of funnel, and then split the 55% between top of funnel and mid funnel.
Any other
Other
questions?
questions?
Awesome.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sorry, I don't mean to dominate. With the transition from smart shopping to performance max,
Yes.
we saw a significant drop off in volume.
Okay.
Our ROAS is similar, if not better in some cases. We're just not getting the same kind of inventory. Do you have recommendations for how to address that?
Yes. So was the volume I don't know if this is working. Was the volume qualified users?
Yeah, because the ROAS is still healthy. It's still where
Still.
it was before, essentially.
Okay.
Better.
So a number of things, without knowing what happened in the accounts, a number of things could have happened. Now PMAX is looking across multiple platforms. So where Smart Shopping was only looking at the shopping and some display, now PMAX can touch search, it can touch Gmail, it also can touch YouTube. So it's supposed to be incremental to whatever else you're doing. And so early on, PMAX's biggest pushback was, hey, it's cannibalizing everything else that we are doing. And so engineers really took a methodical approach to make sure that it was just incremental. So the volume isn't going to be as large as you remembered on Smart Shopping, because PMAX is supposed to be incremental to the rest of what you're doing. Yeah.
Any other questions? And maybe just even open up to, I know not everyone in the room is retail or e-com. So Todd, anything from a healthcare standpoint, or Janessa, anything from kind of legal services? Anything else that you'd like to ask us or
everyone how you can track.
Yeah.
Now they're handcuffing us in healthcare.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
can't really do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very little. We're really struggling to find ways to, what do we consider conversions these
Yeah.
days, since I can't track those people,
Yeah.
once they're on the site. I can't track those conversions, those schedule an appointment or anything.
Yeah.
So we've just got to find a different way to look at, what is success for us now.
And I think a lot of that is going to be just really taking a look at your analytics and applying values there, and knowing that unfortunately Google is taking a hard stance on sensitive verticals, and I think legal falls into that as well, of some things that we can do. And now the Department of Health and Human Services has taken an even harder stance on even what they identify as a HIPAA identifier, a digital identifier. For any of you that don't know, HIPAA says that a digital identifier is an IP address, which a patient identifier is an IP address, which would make it really hard for Google to do its job. And so we're trying to figure out ways to still meet the need of you being able to meet the patients where they're at, but also making sure that we're following all of those guidelines. So there's certain things, as we talked about first-party data, for some industries like legal and healthcare, and any thing that we talk about is as a sensitive vertical, no race, no we can do gender, but like no ethnicity, nothing that we can pass back to know a little bit more or whittle down to a person. Google takes a hard stance in not allowing you to pass that information back, which is why enhanced conversions is a good option. That was our response to being able to say, hey, with people now declining cookies, so declining to be able to do dynamic product retargeting, or declining to be able to be tracked in any way, what are the ways that we can still give advertisers some semblance of what their performance actually looks like? And that was through enhanced conversion. So that's going to be probably your first step, but also working with your agency as well as Google to understand, like, okay, where are we placing these tags in the appropriate place, and working with your legal team in that way.
I think one of the things just to add to the team, right, is that in one of the meetings earlier with James from Wilson Electronics, I think a couple of things that you have to offer from just some various audits and looking at some of the creatives and things like that, I think will definitely be of value. So maybe just do we still have just a couple of minutes?
We're just
right at time.
Oh,
Yep.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll obviously follow up as your partners with some of the other just kind of audits and some tools that Google has to continue to help what we're doing on your behalf be even better.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
So
So Shanice is going to share some more data with us today. In addition to Shanice, we have Kelly Holiday, who's our SVP of Home Building and Higher Education. I always have to remember exactly what they are. And Kelly's a wealth of knowledge. Has been doing this for a long, long time. So we're excited to have Kelly involved. And then Peyton as well is our other team lead. So you guys met Landon on the last, and we have Landon and Peyton who are our team leads, and they're the ones who manage the digital team, and they're just experts at what they do. So we're excited to have Peyton involved as well. So Shanice, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm not going to give the whole spiel. Oh, wow. It's a picture of me this time. But I'm Shanice Wigfall. I am the head of agency at Google. A little bit about me. 12 years in the digital space. Before that, I was a publicist. And then I've been at Google for 3 years, managed a few agencies on the West Coast, and then came over to Google, worked on a lot of different verticals, a lot of different businesses, and under my remit is about 40 to 50 agencies and about $2 billion in Google Ads revenue. And so really my whole job is to just make sure that you all have everything you need through your agencies and that your agencies are well equipped and understand Google inside and out. And so Max Connect has been a great partner. For Jad, who was on the main stage, he's on my team, and so this is his partnership. I'm just here to support. So what we're going to be talking about is really how can we find quality leads on Google? And I hear a lot of times, hey, Meta has better, we're getting better CPAs on Meta, or hey, we're doing native, or we're doing something else, and we're able to figure out leads a little bit better on other platforms. And so hopefully today we can walk through some things to get you the best leads as possible on Google and find quality leads, because I know that that's important. Wow, 2. So what Phil said earlier about the sentiment, thankfully my slide is a little dated. So my slide goes to Q1 2023, where sentiment was still down. However, as you can see, he had the most recent data. And so that is showing you that right now we're on an uptick. And how do we capitalize on that? How do we lean into that consumer sentiment? Now, what we're seeing on the lead gen space, especially with home services specifically, is because they're directly correlated to interest rates. And so people are not as enthusiastic about some of the things that they need to be purchasing or need to be looking for a quote for their home at the current moment, or for different things, for even their business. Should I be expanding my business? Should I be getting more supplies from a B2B perspective? These are the things that from a lead gen perspective, you guys have a really unique viewpoint in what's going on in terms of the economics of the world right now and of the country right now. And so we're going to talk through, even with that economic uncertainty, what are some things that you can do? Where can we lean in, and how can we find those high quality leads and customers? And so despite rising uncertainty, we do see that there are some industries that still have steady interest. And so this is the first thing that I do, especially with lead gen companies, is try to debunk the myth. I know overall, yeah, we're seeing that decline, but there are some industries that are holding fast. And so insurance, regardless, everyone still needs insurance. Things are happening every day. And even when we see insurance companies leaving certain regions and geos, they need to amplify in other regions as well. Investment services, people are, I showed in the last session, people have been saving and now they're depleting those savings, and so they need investment services to boost back up those savings. Car and automotive and care of that is still holding firm, as well as legal and education services. And so something interesting, real estate, it goes up and down. Like this slide is showing an uptick, but depending on the week that you look at, we could be on a down week. So that's the one where I would say we need to be very reactive and really lean into Max Connect and Google to get the most recent data as possible. So then in terms of the customer's journey, I mentioned this the last time, but it's not linear. Gone are the times and the days where someone said, oh, I need solar panels, and they Googled solar panels, and then they filled out the lead and went with that person and then got the solar panels. Now, there's a whole different way that they're finding and stumbling upon their needs and how they're interacting with your website. So how can we get them, and I'm using solar panels as the example, but how can we get them before they even know that they need solar panels? What does that consumer journey look like? And so 93% of customer journeys are unique, meaning that you have to be nimble and you have to be in multiple channels to be able to find these people because it's not predictable. And so what we're seeing is about 238 million different paths are created every 30 minutes. So if you ever pulled up a path to conversion report or an attribution report to try to really understand what is the journey of all of my users, it's going to be a mix and match of so many different channels that you're in, and it's going to be really, really hard to say this is the one that we'll invest in. So given that, how do we accelerate? How do we lean in and really find users where they're at? And so first, we're going to have to, especially for lead gen, we're going to have to leverage the data so that it works for you. That's in a couple of different ways. That first-party data, when they're coming to your website, and us being able to track their user behavior on their website and learn a little bit more about them. How long are they spending on the site? Did they interact? Did they download a PDF? Did they give us their email address? These are kind of different ways that we can assign a value to that customer to learn how much do we want to invest in them to keep them in the loop. And then we can also look at Google signals that we have. Hey, we don't have all the data from our website, but what does these lookalike audiences or audiences that are similar to them, how are they behaving? And where are they looking and where are they so that we can come find them? And then you transform that demand into revenue. And so this is really looking at what is our overall measurement? How are we looking from a CRM perspective? How are we ingesting that information and giving it back so that we can qualify these leads? Google the platform is wide, and so sometimes we will run into having invalid leads and having traffic where you're like, hey, we're getting the leads, but it feels like bots. It doesn't feel like the people that we actually want. And so what we need to do is really think about the guardrails that we're putting in place to make sure that we're able to transform that demand into revenue and drive higher value from the budget. So like I said, assigning the value of each step along the way and then being able to optimize towards each of those steps so that you are able to make the most out of your budget. So we're going to delve a little into the data. We talk about lead to sell journey a lot with Google. The North Star for any lead gen client that we have is to know their lifetime value. Are they going to come back? Do they only buy me? Do they only purchase or engage with me one time? What is the value of that? Or do I need them to be a repeat customer? What is the value of the people who are repeat customers? How much do we make if we get someone who is loyal to us over time? But before we can even get there, we start at the online actions. And this is why it's important to be able to really have great first-party data and be able to track what the actions online are. And so you're able to look at those conversion costs and optimize toward them. Can we look at leads? Can we look at submissions? Can we look at emails? Are we looking at how many people, hopefully we're looking at how many people are engaging with the chat feature? How many people are engaging with our newsletter? And what does the conversion rate look like from there? And do those people turn into qualified leads over time? And then we also want to look at offline actions. especially a lot of lead gen, and I'll ask everyone in the room, who has a call center or some sort of in-person sales process that is not online? Awesome. And so are you currently tracking those offline conversions and pairing them with your digital actions? Excellent. Ooh, you are on it. So that's what we want to see, is that you're able to qualify what those offline actions are and pair them with what's happening online and apply a value. Because those people probably found you somewhere online and preferred to interact with a human being, but we still want to give credit to what is going on what we did online as well. And vice versa. Maybe they interacted with you first in person, and then we still need to give credit somewhere to the online interaction as well, because you're paying for that media. And then overall, if we can get to a point where we really understand our data, we have offline conversion imports, we have our online conversion tracking, and we're able to pair those together. Now we understand what the lifetime value is and what the ROI is for this user journey. So we're okay spending a little bit more to get them in the door, because we know that, hey, based on this profile, this person's going to be with us for quite a while. And so this is just from a healthcare perspective, what a lead to sale journey looks like. Now, we were talking earlier about healthcare. It's a tricky time right now for healthcare, especially on what we can track. But healthcare is a wide industry. So for some that can track, we look at, hey, who signed up? What was the value of that sign up? From that, we saw that was about a 30% conversion rate. Then we look at, okay, who, after they signed up, who requested a consultation? Then we assign a value there. Then we look at, after the consultation, did we have a sales qualified call? And so now we're able to see, hey, we're okay with paying more and more the deeper in the funnel that they get, the deeper in the pipeline that they get. Then once they had a scheduled appointment, we know, okay, there's a huge value here. We're getting really, really close to closing this. And so now we have the initial consultation, and that's kind of our final step. And so that's what we look at. And so in terms of this, we say, hey, we're going to increase the revenue and profit by driving that lifetime value, really looking at profitability and also looking at the efficiency. You don't want to be, of course, you don't want to be in a spot where you're paying the $1,500 for the sign up. And so you really want to understand how your dollars are working for you. And so I talked about enhanced conversions for web, but this is enhanced conversions for lead. This is Google's answer or new offline conversion imports. And this is just a more seamless way of doing it. It's still in beta, but it's looking at future-proofing your measurement. As we're going to start not being able to track certain things through cookieless tracking, this is our answer to being able to still maintain some of that offline conversion, because we pair it with something called a G-CLID, which is what we identify as the online user. So that's going to eventually go away, and you will need to move over into enhanced conversion for leads. And so this will be privacy safe. We will not be able to target anyone one-to-one or know a user individually. It will all be hashed data, hashed first-party data. So we hear a lot of, hey, are we passing back personal information? You couldn't if you tried. And there won't be any custom coding that you could do to try to get some of that information. So then when we look at how AI is used to multiply your business, first we want to look at multiplying results. And so we really want to see, how are we able to drive a really strong and reliable ROI based on unlocking growth? How much can we invest in here and continue to grow till we get to kind of like a point of diminishing return? And then we want to look at, how are we using the customer connections that we've built to go to market faster and to meet customers where they are. And then lastly, we want to say, hey, we've done all the work. How are we looking at the expertise and what we already know about our customers to drive value and impact through our messaging, through our creative? Can we get personalized with them so that we can really figure out and define who those high quality leads and customers are? And so a big thing that we love using is AI-powered bidding, which is called value-based bidding. So apply a value at every step of that pipeline, and we can optimize towards it. If you tell me, hey, Shanice, our signups, we're valuing that at $10, we're going to optimize toward $10, and we're going to make sure that we don't go over that. And then you're able to see what volume can you get, what is the quality of leads that you can get for $10 per sign up. And so when we see this applied, we see that conversion value typically lift about 14%. So this is value-based bidding in practice of what I just mentioned. Hey, we have a value of $100. We bid $10 before we had value-based bidding. And with value-based bidding, we were able to bid $5 because we knew that, hey, we have a $300 customer and a $500 customer. We do not need to spend $10 to get this customer. And so through machine learning, we're able to have those predictability patterns and understand a little bit more about the customers so that you are not overspending. And so for customer 2, similar thing. You've been bidding $10 for everybody, regardless of who the person is, but you were appropriate to be bidding $10 for customer 2, and you actually need to bid a little bit more because customer 3 is going to make you more money. You need to bid a little bit more to be in front of them. So that's how value-based bidding works. So then we're going to look at Performance Max. And so Performance Max, we talked about it at the retail session, but it's a little bit different for lead gen. When we look at Performance Max and it's driving scale and growth, and it's really trying to find incremental conversions at a similar cost. And so we see about 18% increase in conversions overall. And so this is where you're going to really try to drive people toward your sign-up page or whatever page that you need to capture the information. Now, I know I'm recorded, but this is coming from me as a Googler. Right now, we're having some interesting feedback on the lead gen form for PMAX. So I recommend going straight to your website and you getting the data and then retargeting off of it rather than having Google do that. And so the best of Google's AI, what we're seeing is single goal-based campaigns. So Performance Max, or PMax as we call it, is absolutely meant to be incremental to what you're doing. So you should be having a full funnel strategy and looking at where am I not targeting, and can PMax find people who I would never typically target? Can they find them at a similar cost that I'm already getting? PMax should not be the only thing that you are doing. And so in that, we're able to look at what are your campaign goals? Can we look at all of your assets? Can we understand what your offline conversion values are? Can we look at targeting signals in that, as well as your geolocation, and find users that will provide incremental revenue to you? So some things that are new and upcoming, it's already out, so it's not upcoming. You can optimize toward new customer acquisition. So this is simply, hey, we already have a retargeting strategy. We're locked in there. We need to learn more about the people who are new. And you can optimize directly toward this goal. Upload that customer email list, and then it's able to understand who's your new customers, who's your existing customers. So to recap, we're going to make sure that we're leveraging your data. First, you're going to do enhanced conversion for web because you need to just understand what their interactions on your website looks like. Then you're going to do enhanced conversions for leads so that you're ahead of the curve. Everyone who's already done offline conversion imports is probably going to have to do enhanced conversions for leads very soon. So if you haven't gotten started on that, you should just start with enhanced conversions for leads. And then you're going to look at how am I bidding to value. Let's go through the lead to sale journey with Max Connects and with Google, and let's apply values at every step of the way, and let's bid to those values and understand what our return is. And then let's look at PMAX to be incremental to what we're already doing. Okay? All right, thank you. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay. Well, we appreciate everybody coming out. So thank you, Shanice, for all that information. That's really helpful. So we're excited to kind of dive into a little bit more of the lead gen, strategies that we implement as an agency, some of the things that we see as core competencies as an agency, as well as some of the best opportunities. So we'll kind of start with a few things. Hopefully what we can take away from this is lead gen really is you becoming your own hype man. Like, what are you doing out there to promote interest, activity, excitement around your brand so people want to engage with your brand? So a couple takeaways we'll look at are, finding your brand's unique voice, telling your unique story, your value propositions, your unique selling propositions, and then developing and nurturing brand trust. And then I put this in bold, developing leads. Really, that's what this comes down to. Is it's very rarely just reach into the bucket and grab a lead. It's developing a relationship and a story and a reason that somebody's going to reach out and want to engage with your brand. So some of you may have seen this. I think this really ties very well into kind of what we were talking about, that conversion and lead gen is very rarely a straight line. It's not linear, right? I look at this, I'm a big time road biker, a mountain biker. I kind of liken this to riding your bike up Suncrest, which is an awful hill that's just right up the road here. It's steep, it's long, it's ugly, it's hot, it's exposed. And there's all these different twists and turns and challenges and climbs along that path and journey. Same thing applies to lead generation. It's not straight, it's not easy, it's hot, you're gonna break a sweat, it's gonna be brutal, right? First step here is I kind of liken that to the chevron at the bottom of the hill. Are my water bottles full? Do I need to grab a Snickers? What do I need to do to gear up for this? That's hyper-targeted audiences. So taking that first party, that third-party data, and then layering it on. So when you hit the street, you know you're geared up. You got the right audience behind you, and you're building up the right kind of momentum.
I was just thinking about linking this to what Greg was talking about earlier, about the team that was going to the South Pole and how they won because they went 15 miles, 15 miles, 15 miles, 15 miles. I'm thinking about the same thing like with Kelly and his biking. You need to hit your checkpoints. You're pacing yourself. You're saying, okay, I do this, then I hit channel performance and optimization. The right combination of what we're doing, the right channels that we deploy based on the industry. In here, we could have a range from, I don't know who's listening in, but we could have SaaS companies, we have home builders, we have healthcare, we have auto dealerships. All of that can be lead gen, and the strategy is going to be wildly different from one to the other. However, I think that working together to find what channels you need to be in, where your customer is one of the key checkpoints.
So I think maybe that second step, channel performance and optimization, is kind of like when I hit Mike Weir Drive. I've gone up about a 10% grade for about 3 miles, and then I'm like, okay, that's my one checkpoint, right? I hit that spot. Next, brand messaging and offer. What are we saying to our customers? What are we saying in a way that's going to compel them to click on your ad, to follow your brand, to come to your website directly, that's compelling and in many cases swaying them away from your competitor, not necessarily bashing on your competitor, but what are the unique selling propositions that you offer that are going to be the compelling reasons why, hey, instead of them, I'm going here. Right? And so really dialing in some of those messaging, some of those offers, A/B testing all that data to determine what is really resonating with those people. Is it this offer? Is it more centered around their lifestyle? Is it more product focused? Whatever it happens to be that really drives that engagement.
And then having a robust ecosystem, Kelly mentioned developing that lead. So the robust ecosystem can be from the beginning. It can be the ads that we run on display or video, search, but also I envision this being after we grab that lead, after we've created this lead, there still needs to be more that happens. It's more than just, okay, now we have their email, we're gonna send them an email, they're gonna buy our product from us, and that's that. You still need to develop, there still needs to be this ecosystem. You need to have a good website, you need to have nurture funnels, you need to have a sales team in place to receive that lead. There's just a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and I know that everyone knows that, but yeah.
So we kind of keep climbing up Suncrest. I'm going to beat that analogy until you guys get sick of it. But you can't have, there's this final climb where you're kind of making this big round push. It's super exposed. It's the steepest part of the climb. It's awful, right? But we've checked all these boxes. We've got there. And then you see what would consider the finish line, even though there is no finish line in the work that we do. You can obtain unrivaled growth and success that has taken blood, sweat, and tears. But you've got a really strong brand message. You've got the right audience. You're continually refining that audience based on information and engagements that you're seeing along the way. So it's never finished because your audiences will change. Their interests will change. The hot buttons for your customers will change based on a variety of different market conditions and everything else. Okay, some of you have maybe seen this before. The reason why we included this is because I think it really comes down to some of our core competencies and core values as an agency of really, again, that very first step and the most critical component of any campaign is, do we know who we're trying to go after? And what is it going to be that's going to compel them, right? And so in many cases, we're taking the what is going to compel them, their online intent. So if you think about your digital fingerprint, every one of us in this room has a unique digital fingerprint, different interests, different hobbies, different things we're shopping for, looking for, whatever, right? And so we're locking onto the interests of these individuals that align with your product. So we're not trying to go out and educate from scratch or convince somebody to come into your brand and have an experience with your brand, but ultimately to really match them with their interests. They already are looking for similar products and services, in many cases maybe from your competitors, and they never heard of you, right? And so then we're trying to hold their hand a little bit, nurture them along the way, and build out that hyper-target audience, and then using our real-time intent platform, then we hit go, and then we're launching campaigns that are out there targeting and delivering ads to these individuals, educating them along that process. Okay, so we already talked about option one, kind of building that out. What's option number two? Just grabbing a big bucket of money and running into paid search and saying, buy a bunch of leads, or go to a third party and buy a bunch of leads. How many of you have done that before? Is that building a great brand story and a relationship with your brand? No, it's just you're putting money in, money out. That's the equation, right? And so on the inverse of that, again, we go back to the foundational components of every campaign that we structure is building out a story, a reason for them to connect with you, a reason to reach out to you, because you have plethora of valued customers, of loyal customers that have stories. They have these journeys. You've built all that out and nurtured it along. So sure, there's going to be opportunities where you might have a big push, a big quarterly incentive or something like that. You're making pushes and you're dropping more into these low funnel strategies and trying to shake the tree, get more fruit out. But ultimately, if you take your eye off the prize of building that brand reputation and building those opportunities, then boy, there's some crazy things going to happen. We're going to talk about them in a second.
Okay, so these are, like I mentioned before, we have lead gen could be a wide variety of industries. The last breakout was e-com and retail, and that's pretty straightforward. That's what it is. But lead gen, anyone can want that, even retail and e-com. Lead gen, you talked about gathering first-party data in the last one. One like Facebook and LinkedIn, they have lead form ads, so does Google. And that's yet another way that you can gather, you can create your own leads, create your own first-party data is running those ads. But the point is there's a lot that you can do. In general, these are the strategies that we deploy. We do display. We're really loving pre-roll and connected TV these days. Video is such a good way to get your brand out there, to educate people on what you do, why they should buy from you, why you're better than the competition. It's an awesome way to get in front of people. Paid search is obviously bottom of funnel. We've talked about that. Conquesting can be done on lots of these different channels. social and paid search and display and pre-roll. You can conquest your competitors. And then retargeting is also done on many of these other channels. If you go to the next slide, again, briefly, here's like a list of what can be done within each channel. Again, we really want to tailor these strategies, and you should be doing that for what, like, you need to know who your customer is, like Kelly talked about before, because that's really going to determine which of all this you do. And there's more on here there's more that isn't listed on here. But I think that as far as like some key points I would take from this is retargeting. Obviously, that's bottom of funnel. When we talk about bottom of funnel, that's going to drive leads. Paid search, Meta and LinkedIn, we've seen drive tons of leads. When we talk about quality, that's a different conversation. There's always a fine line between volume and quality. I think for the most part, when you're buying leads from a third party, and most of the time those leads are low quality, the conversion rate from lead to close is low. And sometimes you see that in Meta as well, where yeah, it's driving tons of leads. Our cost per lead is $15, but none of them are converting. So there's this constant battle where we're trying to decide, okay, between volume and quality. But lead form ads do drive a lot of interest. And then paid search, again, capturing your bottom of funnel, the people that are searching for your brand and the specific product that you're offering.
I'm going to back up for just 1 second here, because I think this is kind of an interesting analogy here. As you look at this funnel, awareness, interest, consideration, intent, and purchase, most of us in here probably deal with considered purchases where it's kind of a research phase. It's not just a one-click add to cart and then leave and never come back again. It was just like about a $5 widget, right? It's, hey, this is either a big purchase or something I want to do a lot of research on. So you can have people that maybe start out in awareness and they're just kicking the tires. They may be like going back to Devin's story at the beginning, where it's like, hey, my wife saw something, an influencer was wearing the shoes, and then I was retargeted off of this, and like people can actually bounce up and down this funnel throughout their journey. It's not just like if you think, okay, we're going to build awareness this quarter, then next quarter we're going to we're going to try and get people over to where they're showing interest and consideration, and then you take your foot off the gas pedal on awareness. Well, then what's building the top of your funnel? Then the top of your funnel dries out, and then you're just chasing them down to try and get to the considered purchase where they're making a decision, right? And so people can graduate from each category and sometimes revert back. I mean, you think about like a big purchase. If you get down all the way to your intent and you're like, hey, I've watched like 150 YouTube videos. This is the car we're getting. You go show your wife. She's like, no, I hate that car. You're like, oh, well, I'm back up to the awareness phase, right? So I think every one of us has been there, right? Where you think you've narrowed it down, and then you're like, oh, reset to 0. Let's go back and figure this out, right? And so it just showcases the importance of being there throughout the entire journey, so you can help that person make those decisions that are going to lead them to your brand and making a purchase from you.
Well, here's a general budget allocation based on like stage of the journey. Lead capture, which could be seen as bottom of funnel to middle of funnel, about 45%. Intent building, which I would view as middle of funnel, if we want to call it that, about 25%. And then top of funnel or demand generating interest at the very high level, maybe about 30%. One question I wanted to pose is, we've talked a lot about brand building, we've talked a lot about brand plus performance, we've talked a lot about a holistic approach. Like when we talk about bottom of funnel channels, that's what? Paid search, that's social channels when we're talking about lead gen. Why are they bottom of funnel? Why do they convert better? Like, why is paid search such a good lead gen channel? Does anyone? Like, I'm thinking, so it's because of your brand. It's because of your brand terms. Social converts because of your retargeting audiences. Paid search converts the most in your self-branded campaign or your organic traffic to your website. And same thing with direct. And the only way, like, you can't, paid search though doesn't increase the volume of those searches or increase the number of impressions that can happen there. It's these other channels. It's search, it's display, it's video, it's people knowing who you are that increase your highest converting channels, whether it's paid or not paid. It could be organic and direct. Like whenever we look in Google Analytics, those are the highest converting channels. They have the most sessions, and the way to increase those it's not paid search, and it's not lead gen forms. Those don't even go to your website. So just think about that. Think about what your bottom of funnel audience is and how you can increase that, how you can increase the number of people that are searching for your brand.
I think about that snapshot of kudos that Devin shared in this session earlier today, where he talked about the first ad that got him there was a Max Connect display ad. Then they came back through a remarketing ad. Then they were direct like 6 times. So if you were to look at that and you were just looking at source media, like, dude, we need to get more direct traffic. Well, can you buy direct traffic? No. Well, how do you build it?
Yeah, I mean, without the display ad, the VIN retargeting ad doesn't happen because they didn't even look at a car yet. You can't retarget without getting someone there first. Yeah.
So educating about your brand, getting them bought into your brand is ultimately what's going to have the biggest impact in your direct and your organic traffic. And if somebody knows your URL and has been to your website 10, 15, 30 times, then chances are they're pretty interested in your product, number one. And what are you going to do to kind of close the loop and keep that person engaged where they finally make contact? Okay, so brand and performance. So we've talked a lot about this in the other breakout sessions, but ultimately this just is a combination of, okay, the full spectrum of marketing from the very initial stages all the way through to conversion. I'll let you kind of talk about that.
I will say, it's not as simple as, okay, we're going to spend more on display and video, then our bottom of funnel is going to increase. There still needs to be KPIs and things that we look at for these top of funnel channels. We need to look at, we can look at Google Search Console and we can see how many branded impressions are happening. We started video on this day. We ran 10 grand, 15 grand, 20 grand for 2 months. What happened to our branded search impressions? That includes organic and paid search. Are they increasing? Yes, that's great. That's a win. Like, we need to figure out, and this can be done, this should be done with Max Connect, or if you're doing it in-house or whoever it is with your team, figuring out what is a win there as far as top of funnel or brand goes, and how you're going to look at that. It could be looking at conversion rates. If more people know who I am, that means more people that come to the site should be converting. So, and I would guess that that increase that you see there is going to be minimal as far as percentage points go, but that's something that you can look at. Anyways, you just need to determine the KPIs. You need to figure out what you're looking for so that you can pivot as needed and gauge success.
And you'll notice this is like DNA. Brand and performance, they're intertwined, right? They really do cooperate, and one lifts the other, and vice versa. Right, and so when your brand stuff is struggling, hey, we might need to go dip and take that bag of money and go buy some leads, or go to the bottom of the funnel and try and cultivate some things to meet some business objectives. But ultimately, taking your eye off the prize of establishing your brand and getting those people bought in will indefinitely have long-term and lasting consequences. Okay, so before we even touch on this, and this maybe have been included in some of the other slides that I didn't see, but when I was talking to Peyton about this, one thing came to mind, and it was Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Have you guys heard the story? If you haven't heard the story, just get out of here.
Yeah.
Brand marketing, performance marketing, and where's that sweet spot? We got the porridge is too hot, we got the porridge is too cold. If we're trying to establish the performance marketing, that's where it's hot. It's hot, it's spicy, it's costly, right? But on the brand side, hey, they're colder, but we're warming them up. We're transitioning them over to the middle to where those two things really can meld together, and you can be here where you need it, be there where you need it, but ultimately working harmoniously to get that person right in the sweet spot to where you've got them fully engaged in your brand.
I mean, when we were talking about effortless, Greg talked about this a similar thing. I mean, he just briefly touched on it. It's not lazy. That's this end of the spectrum, and we're trying to get away from giving 110%. It's somewhere in the middle. It's your perfect pace or whatever it is. Continuing in that zone is the best, and that's the same idea.
Okay, I wish I would have blocked out the text at the bottom of this and then asked you guys a question. To look at this, so this is a list of a campaign that we are running where we were able to segment some of the different competitors as well. And so each one of these lines represents a competitor, a direct competitor. In some cases, they're much larger competitors with a much larger footprint. But you can see where that yellow category for search, they're buying leads. They're dumping money into that funnel, right? So the campaign that we're running is very holistic. It covers, definitely have a strong foot on the gas pedal from a paid search standpoint, but so look at some of these other channels. Direct traffic, look at the difference between the campaign that we're running and these other campaigns. They've got 29%, 36% of their traffic coming from direct. So those are people who know their brand, right? It's a lot smaller percentage.
Just to clarify, our campaign is the top one.
Yeah, the top one.
Yeah, why, I mean, and again, a question, like, why is that important? It's because direct traffic converts. Direct and organic in your branded terms, that's what converts. That's where you get your leads.
So if I were to ask you in here, that 60% of direct traffic, what would you attribute that to?
People know your brand.
People know your brand, right? And that doesn't come easy. That's the long game, right? And so if we're in business to come in and make a splash in 10 months and then cash out and retire, maybe it's a different strategy and approach. But if we're looking to grow year over year and establish our brand, people got to know the brand, right? And 60% of their traffic's coming from direct because we've done a heck of a job building that brand to where people love them. They like the videos they put out. They like the display ads they put out. They love all the different things that they're putting out there in the marketplace to really get engaged and have solid interest and also outreach to this company. Okay, so what happens if we focus only on the prize, the bottom of the funnel? What happens? Can you force more people in the market to search for your products and services? I mean, you might be able to if you've got a Coke budget, but I'm sure most of us in here are operating on a limited budget. I mean, even Coca-Cola's got a limited budget, but we don't have Coke budgets, right? So when we look at this, we see, hey, there's definitely times and places where there maybe need to be more priority at the bottom of the funnel. But ultimately, this is an example. We had a client that came to us and said, hey, we've been running these campaigns, and we had a multi-funnel approach. We were running a variety of different campaigns, building the funnel, establishing the brand, and seeing really good results. So much so that one of the sales team is saying, hey, it's so great that we've started doing this. We started marketing, and the VP of the company's like, we've been doing this same thing for years. But now we just shifted the approach, right? And so the sales team's thinking, hey, we're just finally branching out into marketing, when in reality they've been marketing for years. And the only thing that changed was we went back to the basics and said, hey, we need to understand your audience. We need to understand your demographics. We need to create these campaigns that target them specifically and are unique to them by product, by interest, things like that. New person comes into the company, says, hey, we want to switch some things up. So what they wanted to switch up was pause this, pause that, pause that. We're going heavy on search. We're going to search for these terms. Basically, what those terms were all the competitive terms that every single one of their competitors was bidding on without any brand relationship, right? So we're like, hey, I'm telling you, this is the wrong strategy. This is going to have some negative connotations. You're going to see some struggles. It says, noted. Let's do it, right? Okay, here we go. So search spend, you can see a big jump in search spend from $14,000 to $32,000 a month. Search impressions, hey, that's great. We got more impressions out there on search, right? Our predictions became a reality very quickly. You'll see that search clicks, hey, they got more clicks, not proportionally to what they were spending, more clicks and or impressions, but look at their click-through rate. Crap. more of the people the less of the people we're getting in front of are clicking our ads. Why? Because you're the same dang ad as everybody else out there, and you're swimming in the same pool at the high cost, right? Search cost per click, $1.55, skyrocketed to $2.94. This is in less than a 40-day period. Cost per conversion, the biggest one, the biggest kick in the shorts, going from under $1 to $2.38, right? Huge, huge change.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking about lead gen, that's all that really matters. Cost per lead, cost per conversion. So yeah.
I would say that, I mean, the biggest thing, and we basically came to a misalignment in strategy and understanding, and the longevity and strength of these campaigns, to the point where we parted ways. This is not an account that we're associated with any longer, because ultimately, who's going to be held responsible for the results? Max Connect, the digital agency. And the whole time we're like, this doesn't work. This is not sustainable. And if you want to play in only the most competitive costs, the lowest performing avenues, then go it on your own, and we're okay with that. Okay, a couple other just quick metrics on this. Bounce rate up, pages per session down, time engagement down. Everything where it matters most was suffering as a result of this change. So that's everything we wanted to kind of run through as far as the lead gen stuff. We'd love to open it up to some Q&A, get some feedback, get some insights on campaigns that you're running, mediums that you have tried, want to try, questions that you have as a group.
Struggles that you're having, anything like that? Which is great.
If there's no pressing questions, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.